Where does a state defense force fit in within the modern U.S. military? One of the biggest questions we hear is, what exactly is a state defense force, state guard, and how does it fit into the modern U.S. military? To understand what a state defense force is, look at the U.S. military structure as a whole. The U.S. military is broken down in two ways. The first is the difference between federal forces and state forces. The second way it is broken down is in the difference between active duty forces, the military is their job, and the reserve forces. They have a day-to-day civilian job, and they are military part-time. Federal forces. Active duty forces. Our federal armed forces comprise people that have made their lives and careers about serving our nation in uniform. The active duty military has 6 branches, including the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force. These forces usually come to people's minds when they hear that a person is in the military. While our military has enough service members to carry out the day-to-day missions they encounter, it is crucial to have more people you can call on when the need arises. These forces are called reserve forces. The reserves. The reserve components exist for 5 of the 6 branches. The only branch that does not have a reserve is Space Force. Besides the federal reserves, each state also has its own military forces. One of these, the National Guard, still has a federal role. In times of great need or war, the President of the United States can activate the National Guard to meet the nation's needs. State forces. The National Guard. The National Guard has both a role at the federal level and the state level. Every state in the nation has a National Guard. The National Guard's purpose is to protect the lives and property of the citizens of their state. Normally, the National Guard is under the control of the governor of each state. The National Guard was first called upon to deal with natural disasters, pandemics, and social disorder within their state. While the president can call them into action, they spend most of their time working within their state. Moreover, National Guard units will deploy overseas to help ensure that they fully integrate with the federal armed forces. But that National Guard is not the only game in town with the states. States also can legally have a state defense force. The State Defense Force, also known as State Guards, are an option that every state and territory has open. Currently, 21 states and territories have a State Guard. The easiest way to understand what a State Guard does is to think of them as the reserves for the National Guard. During state-level emergencies, the State Guard can be called upon to furnish additional service members to meet the state's needs. One of the biggest differences between the State Guard versus the National Guard is that the president cannot call up the State Guard. This means that a State Guard only works for their governor. This allows the State Guard to take over the National Guard's role in their state during times of war. If most of a state's National Guard is called up for service, the State Guard takes up the slack left by the National Guard. In fact, this is how State Guards came into existence. In 1917, with the National Guard called up for World War I, Congress passed a law that brought State Guard into its existence. Since then, State Guards have been ready, willing, and able to meet their state's needs.